Science has always been about discovery, but some knowledge is considered too dangerous, too controversial, or too disruptive to be shared. Tonight, we're diving into forbidden science, the suppressed experiments, hidden breakthroughs, and unsettling truths that challenge everything we know. So sit back, relax, and let's explore the secrets they never wanted you to know. The strange case of biological immortality. What if death wasn't inevitable? What if aging wasn't a slow, merciless countdown, but just another problem waiting to be solved? Sounds impossible, right? But deep beneath the ocean, there's a tiny, almost unnoticeable creature that seems to have cracked the code. The Turritopsis dohrnii, also known as the immortal jellyfish, has something that every living thing on Earth has dreamed of: the ability to reverse aging. It doesn't just live longer, it essentially resets itself over and over again, dodging death in a way that defies everything we think we know about biology. If nature has already created something capable of this, then the real question isn't if biological immortality is possible, it's whether humans can find a way to make it work for us. The way the immortal jellyfish achieves this is something straight out of science fiction. Unlike us, whose cells age and degrade over time, this creature has a special ability. When it faces extreme stress, whether from starvation, injury, or even old age, it doesn't just die. Instead, it transforms itself back into its juvenile state, essentially starting life over again. It's like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, then suddenly reversing the process and becoming a caterpillar again, indefinitely. Scientists call this process transdifferentiation, where the jellyfish's cells reorganize themselves into a younger, healthier state, erasing any sign of aging. Imagine if we could do the same. If instead of getting wrinkles and weak bones, our bodies could simply rebuild, turning back the clock to our prime. Now here's where things get even crazier. The jellyfish isn't just extending its lifespan, it's potentially immortal. There is no known upper limit to how many times it can reset itself. Most organisms are on a strict biological timer. Their cells degrade, their DNA accumulates damage, and eventually they shut down. But this tiny creature has found a way to avoid that fate entirely. If nature has already engineered a solution to death, why haven't we? Or maybe we did. Maybe ancient civilizations once understood something about longevity that we've forgotten. Throughout history, myths of immortality have surfaced in almost every culture. The fountain of youth, the philosopher's stone, the elixir of life, all of these legends hint at an obsession that has existed for thousands of years. But what if these weren't just stories? What if, buried beneath history, there were actual attempts, maybe even successes, at unlocking biological immortality? The ancient Taoists of China believed that specific breathing techniques and herbal mixtures could extend life indefinitely. The Egyptians preserved their pharaohs, believing they would one day return. The Greeks told stories of gods and demigods who defied aging. Maybe these weren't just myths. Maybe they were based on something real, something we lost along the way. There's another species that hints at nature's secret to eternal youth, the hydra. This tiny freshwater organism possesses an incredible trait. It doesn't age. It doesn't accumulate DNA damage like humans do, and it doesn't experience cellular breakdown. Scientists believe the hydra's stem cells continuously regenerate in a way that makes it biologically ageless. What if humans could replicate that? What if there was a way to turn on that same genetic switch in us? Some researchers believe that the key to stopping aging lies in telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of our DNA strands. Each time a cell divides, these telomeres shrink until they become too short to function, leading to aging. But what if we could stop them from shrinking? Some species already can. Certain lobsters and turtles maintain their telomere length indefinitely, suggesting they don't experience aging in the way we do. The more we look into nature, the more we realize that aging isn't universal. Some creatures don't age at all. Some can regenerate entire limbs, like the axolotl. Some, like the Greenland shark, live for over 500 years. If evolution has already produced beings that can escape aging, then what's stopping us? Maybe it's not just about biology. Maybe there's something deeper, something ancient civilizations once understood, but we've forgotten. Take, for example, the ancient alchemists. They weren't just chemists trying to turn lead into gold. They were obsessed with something far more valuable: eternal life. Many believed that the key to immortality was hidden within nature itself. They searched for substances that could regenerate the body, heal wounds instantly, and even reverse aging. Some believe they may have come close. In China, legends tell of certain emperors who consumed special elixirs said to make them ageless. Some even mention mysterious herbs that granted unnaturally long life. Could they have discovered something that modern science has overlooked? Modern scientists are now experimenting with gene therapy, stem cell rejuvenation, and even AI-driven biological enhancement to stop aging at its source. Some researchers are looking at ways to edit human DNA to behave more like the immortal jellyfish or the ageless hydra. Others are developing medications that can extend telomeres or reset aged cells. The science of immortality is no longer just a fantasy, it's happening right now. But here's the real question. What if ancient civilizations already figured this out? What if long ago, someone cracked the code to stopping aging, and we lost that knowledge along the way? In the ruins of ancient Egypt, some hieroglyphs depict what appear to be medical procedures far ahead of their time. Some even suggest that pharaohs underwent mysterious treatments to preserve their youth. The ancient Sumerians told stories of kings who ruled for thousands of years before something changed, before the knowledge of longevity was lost. Even the Bible speaks of figures who lived hundreds of years, like Methuselah, whose lifespan was said to be 969 years. Were these just exaggerated myths, or do they hint at a forgotten science that once existed? Today there are people known as biohackers, who are actively trying to extend human life using a mix of technology, diet, and cutting-edge medicine. But maybe we're not actually moving forward. Maybe we're just rediscovering something ancient. Maybe the real fountain of youth wasn't a place, but a forgotten understanding of how to manipulate biology itself. Think about it. What if the biggest secret of all is that aging is optional? What if death isn't the default, but just a side effect of lost knowledge? Maybe, deep in the past, someone figured it out. Maybe someone lived far longer than history admits. And maybe, just maybe, that knowledge is still out there, waiting to be found again. The secrets of anti-gravity technology. Imagine a world where gravity isn't a limitation, where cars don't roll on roads but hover in midair, where skyscrapers stretch higher than ever because they don't need a foundation, where space travel doesn't require massive fuel-burning rockets, but silent, sleek crafts that defy physics as we know it. It sounds like science fiction, but what if I told you that the idea of anti-gravity technology isn't just a fantasy? It's something that might already exist, hidden away from public view. For centuries, humans have dreamed of defying gravity. Ancient myths speak of floating cities, gods who soared through the sky, and mysterious flying chariots. But the real question isn't whether we've dreamed about it, it's whether someone, somewhere, has actually figured it out. Some believe that hidden research, classified military projects, and even reverse-engineered UFO technology have uncovered the secrets of manipulating gravity itself. If that's true, then everything we know about movement, transportation, and energy is about to change. To understand anti-gravity, we have to first understand gravity itself. It's an invisible force, pulling everything toward the ground, shaping planets, stars, and galaxies. Isaac Newton described how it worked, but it was Albert Einstein who truly unlocked its mysteries. He showed that gravity isn't just a force, it's the bending of space and time itself. If space can be bent, then logically, it can also be manipulated. And if it can be manipulated, then maybe, just maybe, it can be cancelled out altogether. Some scientists believe that gravity is closely linked to electromagnetism. That might not sound exciting at first, but think about this. If gravity and magnetism are connected, then a powerful enough magnetic field could, in theory, disrupt or even reverse gravity. This idea isn't new. In the 1920s, Nikola Tesla, the man behind wireless electricity and radio waves, claimed that he had discovered a way to create an anti-gravity flying machine. He called it the space drive and hinted that it worked by manipulating electromagnetic fields. But here's the strange part. Tesla's notes on this discovery vanished after his death. Tesla wasn't the only one to experiment with these ideas. During World War II, rumors spread that Nazi scientists were developing a secret anti-gravity device called Die Glocke, or the bell. Some say this device was capable of generating a mysterious force field, disrupting time, and even bending reality itself. And whatever knowledge they had disappeared into military black projects. Could they have unlocked something we were never meant to know? Then there's Project Montgolfier, a French aerospace research program that supposedly experimented with levitation techniques. And let's not forget the Biefeld-Brown effect, an observed phenomenon where high-voltage electricity seems to create a lifting force. Some researchers believe this is the key to making objects float without traditional propulsion. If this effect is real, and if someone perfected it in secret, then we could be living in a world where anti-gravity vehicles already exist, just hidden from public view. Military has been strangely interested in these concepts for decades. In 1955, Gravity Research Foundation founder Roger Babson funded secret studies on gravitational shielding. Later, in the 1990s, NASA launched the Breakthrough Propulsion Physics Project, a program specifically designed to explore technologies that could manipulate gravity. The research went dark shortly after. But what if they found something? What if anti-gravity breakthroughs are already in use, just kept under wraps by those who don't want the world to know? And then there's the biggest mystery of all, UFO technology. The Pentagon has recently declassified several reports detailing unidentified aerial phenomena that seem to defy the laws of physics. These objects don't use conventional propulsion. They don't generate visible exhaust. And most importantly, they don't seem to be affected by gravity the way we are. They stop, start, and change direction instantly, as if gravity doesn't exist for them. Could these crafts be using a form of anti-gravity propulsion? Some claim that governments around the world have recovered crashed UFOs and have been secretly studying their propulsion systems. If that's true, then someone, somewhere, might have already figured out how to build gravity-defying craft. If such technology exists, then why haven't we seen it? Well, think about this. If anti-gravity technology became public, it would collapse industries overnight. No more fuel consumption, no more dependence on traditional aircraft, no more limits on space travel. Some people would lose a lot of money if anti-gravity became a reality. But despite all this secrecy, small breakthroughs are still being made. Some private researchers have claimed to replicate anti-gravity effects using high-energy electromagnetic fields. Russian scientist Eugene Podkletnov conducted experiments that seemed to show small objects losing weight when exposed to a powerful rotating superconducting disk. If his work is real, then it means we might be on the verge of discovering the science that changes everything. Imagine what this could mean for the future. Imagine floating cities, built on platforms that hover effortlessly in the sky. Imagine spacecraft that take off silently, without the need for fuel or engines. Imagine a world where movement isn't restricted by gravity at all, where you could simply lift off and travel anywhere, instantly. What if the only reason this isn't happening yet is because someone doesn't want us to know? We might be closer than we think. Right now, scientists are studying quantum mechanics, where particles seem to appear, disappear, and even exist in multiple places at once. Some theories suggest that by tapping into the quantum vacuum, the hidden energy of empty space, we could generate gravity waves and manipulate them at will. If this research continues, we might one day uncover the full science of anti-gravity, a science that may have already been discovered long ago. So what do you think, man? Is anti-gravity just a myth, a dream that will always stay out of reach? Or is it something we've already unlocked, but have been kept from knowing? Maybe somewhere, hidden away in a classified lab, or a forgotten experiment, the secret to floating above the ground, to breaking free from gravity itself, is already waiting to be revealed. The science of time manipulation. Have you ever felt time slip through your fingers? One moment, you're a kid, playing in the sunlight, and the next, you're standing in a different life, wondering how the years passed so fast. Time moves forward, relentlessly, unshaken by our desires, our regrets, or our wishes. But what if we're wrong about it? What if time isn't an unstoppable force, but something we could bend, twist, or even break? Imagine pausing a moment forever, reliving your best days, or even escaping time's grip entirely. It sounds like science fiction, but science itself is starting to whisper that time isn't as rigid as we believe. Time dilation, time loops, paradoxes. There are cracks in the armor of time, and if we can find the right tools, we might just be able to step through them. Let's start with something proven: time dilation. It's not a theory, it's reality. Right now, astronauts on the International Space Station are aging slower than we are on Earth. The faster you move, the slower time ticks for you. If you could travel at speeds close to the speed of light, time would almost freeze for you, while the rest of the world would move forward at an unimaginable rate. This means that in the future, when technology allows it, someone could hop on a spacecraft, circle the galaxy at near light speed, and return to Earth hundreds of years later, having only aged a few months. Time travel to the future is already part of our reality. The only thing stopping us is speed. But time doesn't just slow down with motion, it bends under gravity too. If you were standing next to a black hole, time for you would move so slowly that minutes for you would be years for everyone else. This is called gravitational time dilation, and it's not a wild guess, it's something we've observed. The stronger the gravity, the slower time moves. Black holes, with their monstrous gravity, stretch time to its breaking point. This means that in theory, a person could hover near the edge of a black hole, return after what felt like minutes, and find that entire civilizations have risen and fallen in their absence. But what about going back in time? That's where things get really strange. According to Einstein's equations, time travel to the past might be possible through something called closed time-like curves. Essentially, loops in space-time that could let you return to an earlier point. Some believe wormholes, shortcuts through space-time, could function as time machines. The catch: you'd need exotic matter with negative energy to keep the wormhole open, and we haven't figured out how to make that yet. But the fact that physics allows the idea at all means it might not be impossible. If time travel to the past is possible, then what about paradoxes? The grandfather paradox is a classic one. What happens if you go back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother? If you erase your own existence, how did you travel back in time in the first place? Some scientists believe the universe would correct itself, preventing paradoxes from occurring. Others think that every time you make a change, you create a new timeline, leaving your original reality untouched. If that's true, then every time travel event would split the universe into infinite versions of itself. This brings us to the many worlds interpretation, a theory that suggests every possible outcome of an event actually happens, just in separate parallel universes. In this view, time travel wouldn't alter your own past, but would instead create a new reality where things play out differently. This means you could go back in time, make changes, and return not to your original timeline, but to a different one, where your actions created a new history. Quantum mechanics, the strangest branch of physics, suggests that time might not be a steady, unbreakable flow. In the quantum world, particles exist in multiple states at once, seemingly defying our understanding of past, present, and future. Some experiments even suggest that a decision made in the present can change an event in the past, something called retrocausality. If this applies to the larger universe, then time might be more flexible than we ever imagined. If time is fluid, then could there be time loops, moments that repeat endlessly? Some scientists believe that under the right conditions, regions of space-time could become self-contained bubbles, endlessly replaying a stretch of time. If this is true, there could be places in the universe where time is stuck, looping forever. Maybe somewhere out there, civilizations have lived the same history over and over, unaware that they're trapped in an eternal cycle. But what if time isn't real at all? Some physicists argue that time is just a human invention, a way for our minds to make sense of existence. In certain quantum equations, time doesn't exist as a fundamental property. If that's true, then past, present, and future might all coexist simultaneously, and we only experience them in sequence because of the way our brains work. This would mean that nothing truly moves forward, it just is, all at once. Some even speculate that advanced civilizations, if they exist, might have already mastered time. If a species could control time, they could exist outside of it, watching us, stepping in and out of different eras at will? What if some of the unexplained mysteries in history, strange disappearances, sudden advancements, impossible knowledge, are the result of beings who understand time in ways we don't? And what about déjà vu, that eerie feeling that you've lived a moment before? Some suggest it could be a glitch in our perception of time, a moment where the brain picks up on information from a slightly different timeline. What if déjà vu isn't just a trick of the mind, but a real overlap of past and present? Time is a mystery that surrounds us every second, yet we barely understand it. It bends, it loops, it stretches, and maybe, just maybe, it can be controlled. If we ever unlock the true nature of time, everything we know about existence will change forever. The future of genetic engineering and superhumans. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be more than human? To heal instantly from wounds, to never age, to have the strength of 10 men or the intelligence of a supercomputer? For most of history, these were just fantasies, the stuff of myths and comic books. But now, science is creeping closer to the impossible. The genetic code, the blueprint of life, is no longer untouchable. We can edit it, rewrite it, even enhance it. The age of superhumans isn't just science fiction anymore. It's knocking on our door. Genetic engineering has already begun reshaping the world. The technology known as CRISPR allows scientists to edit DNA with astonishing precision. It's like a pair of molecular scissors, capable of cutting out defective genes and replacing them with better ones. Right now, it's being used to cure diseases. But what happens when we take it further? What if we stop fixing flaws and start enhancing? Faster reflexes, stronger bones, sharper minds. There's no reason we have to settle for the limits we were born with. The first real genetically edited humans may have already been born. In 2018, a Chinese scientist secretly altered the DNA of twin girls before they were even born, making them resistant to HIV. The world was shocked. But why? Was it really so different from giving a child vaccines or medicine? That's the thin line we're now walking. Where does medicine end and enhancement begin? Now, imagine a world where parents can design their children, not just for health, but for beauty, intelligence, even personality. A child could be born immune to every disease, with perfect vision, a photographic memory, and the ability to learn languages effortlessly. Some say this is dangerous, that it will create a society where the rich design super children, while the poor are left behind. Others say it's inevitable. If you had the chance to give your child a better life, wouldn't you take it? But let's go further. What if we don't just tweak human genes, but combine them with others? Scientists have already inserted jellyfish DNA into mice, making them glow in the dark. What happens when we start blending the DNA of different species? Faster regeneration from lizards, enhanced eyesight from eagles, underwater breathing from fish. There's nothing in nature that's off limits. Could the next stage of human evolution be something entirely new? Some believe genetic engineering won't just create better humans, it will create different species. If a group of people undergo generations of genetic enhancements, they might become so advanced that they no longer see themselves as the same species as ordinary humans. What happens when superhumans and baseline humans can no longer compete? Would they still coexist, or would they rule over the rest? And what about aging? Scientists have already reversed aging in mice using genetic reprogramming. Some believe we could do the same for humans. One believe we could do the same for humans. Imagine a world where people don't grow old, where a 90-year-old could have the body of a 25-year-old. If we can control aging, what happens to death? Would people ever die unless they wanted to? Would a world without aging be a paradise, or would it be a nightmare? We're also learning how to regrow limbs. Right now, some animals can regenerate entire body parts, and genetic scientists are trying to unlock that ability for humans. Imagine a soldier losing a leg in battle, only for a new one to regrow in its place. No more prosthetics, no more wheelchairs, just pure biological renewal. But what about intelligence? What if genetic engineering could double or triple human IQs? Some genes are already linked to intelligence, memory, and creativity. Scientists have enhanced the intelligence of mice by altering a single gene. If we do the same to humans, will we still be the same species? Could super geniuses rise so far above normal people that they control the future? There's also strength. Right now, some animals, like chimpanzees, are many times stronger than humans, even though they have similar muscle mass. Their genetic structure allows them to generate more force. Scientists have already started studying how to unlock superhuman strength in humans. If genetic engineering allows us to create people who are 10 times stronger than today's athletes, how would that change sports, the military, or even everyday life? Then there's disease immunity. Some people are born with genetic mutations that make them almost immune to things like heart disease, Alzheimer's, or even viruses. If we enhance those traits, entire diseases could disappear forever. No more cancer, no more genetic disorders, no more fear of getting sick. But if we eliminate all weaknesses, do we lose something essential about what it means to be human? Some believe the government is already experimenting with superhumans in secret. Military projects might be creating enhanced soldiers, stronger, faster, immune to pain. If one country creates super soldiers, the rest will follow. Will the future of war be fought by enhanced humans, men and women, who never tire, never weaken, never fear? And what if genetic engineering goes beyond the body? What if we create humans who don't need sleep, or who can survive in extreme conditions? What if the first spacefaring humans are engineered to withstand radiation, low gravity, and the vacuum of space? Could genetic engineering be the key to colonizing other planets? But there's a dark side. What if governments use genetic engineering to create obedient populations? People who don't question, don't resist, don't think for themselves. If intelligence can be enhanced, it can also be reduced. The same technology that can create geniuses could be used to create mindless workers, a genetic underclass that exists only to serve the elite. Some scientists warn that we might not fully understand what we're doing. Genes interact in complex ways. If we change one thing, we might accidentally cause new problems. A gene that makes you stronger might also make you more aggressive. A gene that increases intelligence might cause severe mental instability. Once we edit the human genome, there's no going back. Yet the possibilities are too tempting to ignore. Would you want to live in a world where some people are physically, mentally, and genetically superior? Or would you fight to keep humanity the way it is? If given the chance to enhance yourself, to become smarter, stronger, or immune to disease, would you hesitate? One thing is certain, the age of genetic enhancement is coming. In the next few decades, the question won't be if superhumans will exist, but how many? And once we open the door to genetic perfection, will we ever be able to close it again? The dark side of cryonics. Imagine this. You close your eyes for what feels like a second, but when you open them again, everything is different. The people you loved are gone, the world you knew has crumbled, and you wake up as a stranger in a future that never planned for you. This isn't science fiction, it's the promise and the nightmare of cryonics. For decades, people have been paying fortunes to have their bodies frozen in liquid nitrogen, hoping that science will one day bring them back. It sounds like a cheat code for death. Why die when you can just hit the pause button? But there's a question few people ask. What if waking up is worse than never waking up at all? Let's start with the basics. Cryonics isn't just freezing a body, it's about stopping time itself. The moment your heart stops beating, technicians rush in to cool your body, replace your blood with cryoprotectants, and lower your temperature to -196 degrees Celsius. The goal, to preserve every cell in your body until medicine advances far enough to bring you back. Sounds simple, right? Except, it's not. The biggest problem. If freezing happens too slowly, ice crystals form inside your cells, shredding them from the inside. Cryonics companies use chemicals to prevent this, but it's not perfect. Even the most advanced methods can still cause microscopic damage. And here's the scary part. No human has ever been revived from this process. Not once. Right now, there are over 300 people frozen in cryonics facilities, with thousands more signed up. Some are entire bodies, Others are just heads. That's right, just heads. These people believe that future technology will be able to regrow their bodies or transfer their minds into artificial ones. But think about it. If you wake up with no body, are you even still you? And then there's the elephant in the room. What if no one wakes you up? Cryonics companies claim they'll keep your body preserved forever, but how realistic is that? These facilities run on money. What happens if they go bankrupt? If civilization collapses? If future humans decide that bringing back frozen people is too risky or just not worth it? Even if the science works, waking up might not be what people expect. Imagine being revived in a world where you have no family, no friends, no money, and no identity. The world will have moved on without you. Will you be treated as a guest, a curiosity, a lab rat? And here's another terrifying thought. What if revival isn't perfect? Maybe the body comes back, but the mind doesn't. Maybe memory loss is permanent. Maybe people wake up in a state of confusion, unable to understand the world they've entered. The human brain is delicate. Freezing it and expecting it to reboot flawlessly is a gamble with no test runs. Then there's the issue of control. If a future society has the power to bring you back, do you think they'll do it out of kindness, or will they own you? You won't have money, property, or legal rights. If you wake up in a world that sees you as less than human, you might not get a choice in how you live. Think about the first revived humans. They won't just be medical miracles. They'll be experiments. Scientists will want to study them, see how they adapt, analyze every cell of their resurrected bodies. Will they be seen as pioneers or test subjects? And what about the economy? Imagine waking up in a world where jobs don't exist the way you remember them. What if artificial intelligence has taken over everything? You have no skills, no understanding of modern society. You're a relic of the past. Will the future even have a place for you? But let's go darker. What if the future isn't a utopia, but a dystopia? What if the people who wake up find themselves in a nightmare world, one ruled by extreme inequality, oppressive governments, or even hostile artificial intelligence? What if they're woken up only to be used, manipulated, or enslaved? And then there's the question no one can answer. What happens to consciousness? If you die and come back, are you still the same person? Or is it just a copy of you, while the real you is gone forever? If your brain was damaged in the freezing process, could your personality be altered in ways you can't even comprehend? Some people believe that cryonics is nothing more than expensive wishful thinking, a scam that preys on people's fear of death. Right now, there's no way to test if it works. The first person frozen in 1967 is still waiting. How long before people admit that waiting forever might just mean never waking up at all? And then there's religion. If an afterlife exists, what happens when you skip death entirely? What if trying to cheat the natural cycle has spiritual consequences? If souls move on when bodies die, does freezing the body trap the soul in limbo? But let's say the future does find a way to revive cryonics patients perfectly. There's still one final nightmare: the wrong people waking you up. Imagine if future corporations, governments, or even criminals control resurrection technology. Would they wake people up for profit, for experiments, for entertainment? And what about punishment? Some people have suggested using cryonics for prison sentences. Instead of sitting in a cell for 50 years, criminals could be frozen and brought back in a completely different era. But think about that. What if being revived wasn't a gift, but a sentence? Right now, cryonics is a gamble where the stakes are your entire existence. No one knows what the future holds. The people frozen today could wake up in a world beyond their wildest dreams, or one they desperately wish they could escape. It's easy to see why people want cryonics to work. The idea of dying is terrifying. The idea of waking up hundreds of years in the future is thrilling. But the truth is, the only thing scarier than death might be the unknown that waits beyond it. So here's the real question: would you do it? Would you take the risk, knowing you might wake up in a world where you don't belong? Or is it better to accept the mystery of death, rather than gamble on a future you can't control? One thing is certain: the people in those frozen chambers are waiting. Decades have passed. Some have been there for over half a century. Their bodies are cold, their hearts are still, their minds are trapped in an endless sleep. and no one knows if they'll ever wake up. The theory that we are living in a dying universe. Have you ever felt like something was off? Like time itself is stretching? Like the stars seem just a little dimmer? Like the world around you is running on borrowed energy? Maybe it's not just your imagination. Maybe it's not just another night slipping away into the void. Maybe, just maybe, we are living in the final moments of the universe itself. To understand why the universe might be dying, we need to go back to its beginning. The Big Bang, a moment of unimaginable energy, an explosion that birthed time and space itself. Everything we know, galaxies, stars, planets, us, came from that one instant of creation. But like a firework fading into the night, the universe has been cooling ever since. And one day, it will run out of fuel. Right now, the universe is still alive. Stars are burning, galaxies are colliding, black holes are swallowing whatever gets too close. But everything in existence runs on energy, and energy is never infinite. Every star that burns will one day burn out. Every last bit of heat will one day be evenly spread across the universe. And when that happens, everything stops. It's called maximum entropy, and it's the most inevitable fate in physics. It's not a sudden explosion. It's not a dramatic collapse. It's worse than that. It's stillness, a universe where nothing moves, nothing changes, nothing happens. Eternal silence. But here's the terrifying part. What if we're already in the final stages? What if the stars that still shine are just the last flickers of a fire that's already gone out? What if the universe has already started winding down, and we're just too small to notice? Some scientists believe we're seeing the signs. The expansion of the universe is accelerating. Stars are forming more slowly than before. Some of the oldest galaxies are already fading away. The cosmic background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang, is cooling, spreading thinner and thinner across space. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the universe exhaling its final breath. And then there's the ultimate nightmare. What if time itself is slowing down? What if what we experience as normal time is actually the universe stretching itself thinner and thinner, like a clock running out of power? If that's true, then in some distant future, time might come to a stop entirely. No movement, no thoughts, no moments left to pass. Imagine looking up at the night sky, knowing that every star you see is doomed to fade. Imagine a future where the last black hole evaporates, where the last atoms drift apart, where the entire universe becomes a motionless void, a place where nothing can ever happen again, because there is no energy left to make anything happen. But here's where it gets really unsettling. What if this has happened before? What if our universe isn't the first, but just one in a long, endless cycle of universe? A universe is born, it expands, it dies, and then something triggers a new beginning. Could the death of one universe be the birth of another? Or are we truly heading toward an ending with no sequel? Some physicists think there's a way out. Some believe that in the final moments of heat death, quantum mechanics might create a new Big Bang, a tiny fluctuation in the void, enough to start everything over again. But others think this is it, the final chapter, the last page of existence. And if the universe is dying, then what does that mean for us? Right now, life clings to the fragile warmth of a still burning sun. But one day, even that warmth will be gone. If humanity survives long enough, we'll have to leave Earth. And if we leave Earth, we'll have to leave the galaxy. But no matter how far we run, we can't outrun entropy. Think about it. Every fire burns out, every light fades, every star collapses into darkness. We are living in a universe that is slowly freezing, slowly dimming, slowly unraveling. And the scariest part, there's no stopping it, no reversing it, no escape. But maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end. Maybe there's something beyond heat death, something we can't yet comprehend. Maybe the laws of physics are hiding a secret, a back door, a reset switch, a way to cheat the inevitable. Maybe the universe isn't fading. Maybe it's evolving into something new. Or maybe what we call heat death isn't death at all. Maybe when the last particle of energy spreads out into the void, something else happens. something that physics hasn't discovered yet, something beyond time, beyond space, beyond everything we know. And then there's another thought, one that might keep you up at night. What if we're already gone? What if the universe has already ended and we're just echoes trapped in its final moments, reliving them over and over? What if we are ghosts in a reality that's already faded away? But here's the most beautiful part. Right now, in this moment, you exist. You're here. You're alive, thinking, feeling, existing in a universe that is still burning, still shining, still full of wonders beyond imagination. Maybe the universe is dying. Maybe everything is heading toward an ending we can't stop. But we are here now, and that means something. So what do you do with this knowledge? Do you fear the future? Do you let the weight of the universe's fate crush you? Or do you take a deep breath, look at the stars, and cherish every single second? Because in the grand story of the cosmos, this moment is yours. And maybe, just maybe, the universe isn't ending at all. Maybe this is just a new kind of beginning, one we can't yet understand. Maybe the last light of the last star will flicker, and something new will rise from the darkness. Maybe the universe is waiting for us to figure out what comes next. But for now, close your eyes, let your mind drift. Feel the vastness of existence wrap around you. The universe is big, it is old, and it is still alive. So relax, let go, and enjoy the warmth of the cosmos while it lasts. The unexplained energy of the pyramids. Have you ever looked at the Great Pyramid of Giza and thought, there's something more to this? Something beyond just stone and geometry. It's not just a monument, it's a mystery, a riddle carved into the earth itself, daring us to understand. Because despite what history books say, some researchers believe the pyramids weren't just tombs, they were power plants. Yeah, you heard that right. Ancient power plants. Not for burning coal, not for nuclear fission, but for something much stranger, wireless energy. The kind of energy that doesn't need wires, that doesn't need fuel, that simply moves through space like an invisible river. And if that's true, then the ancient Egyptians may have cracked a secret we still don't fully understand. First, let's talk about the shape of the pyramids, because they're not just random piles of stone. Their angles, their alignments, their proportions, they all follow something almost mathematical. The Great Pyramid, for example, is aligned almost perfectly with true north. It's built to the exact proportions of Earth itself, and its structure, strangely similar to Nikola Tesla's designs for his own wireless energy towers. Tesla, the genius inventor, believed the Earth could be used as a giant electrical conductor. That energy, if harnessed the right way, could travel through the ground and the air without the need for wires. And here's where it gets weird. The pyramids might have been doing the same thing. They weren't just shaped randomly. Their design could have been an ancient technology, a way to send power across vast distances. Think about this. Inside the Great Pyramid, there's no soot, no smoke stains, no evidence that torches were used to light the deep chambers. And yet, ancient Egyptians worked in those tunnels. How? Some believe they had a different source of light. Maybe something electrical, maybe something we've lost to time. But here's where it gets even stranger. Inside the Great Pyramid, traces of high-frequency energy have been detected. Researchers have found electromagnetic anomalies inside the structure, suggesting it could have been interacting with natural energy fields. And if that's true, then this wasn't just a tomb, it was a machine. A machine for what? Some theories suggest it was a resonator, pulling energy from the Earth's natural vibrations, amplifying it, and sending it into the sky. Others say it was built to collect cosmic energy, channeling it through its chambers like a giant capacitor. And some believe, if the theory is right, the pyramids might have powered an entire civilization. Now imagine this, an ancient city, lit up without wires. No need for fire, no need for fuel, just energy, flowing through the air, powering homes, machines, maybe even more advanced technology than we realize. Maybe the pyramids weren't just power sources, they were part of a forgotten energy grid, a system lost to history. Sounds crazy, right? But look at other ancient structures, Machu Picchu, Teotihuacan. the temples of India. Many of them share the same strange alignments, the same energy anomalies, the same precision that modern tools struggle to replicate. Maybe the ancients weren't just builders, maybe they were engineers of something we barely understand. And then there's the material. The limestone casing stones of the Great Pyramid weren't just ordinary rock, they were made from highly conductive materials. Some believe these stones allowed electricity to move across the pyramid like a battery, gathering and storing energy. And deep inside, granite chambers filled with quartz, a crystal known for its ability to generate electricity under pressure. Was this thing built to create power? Now think about this. If the Great Pyramid really was some kind of energy machine, then why aren't we taught this in history books? Why do we still call it a tomb, even though no mummies have ever been found inside? Maybe we don't have the full story. Maybe history, as we know it, has gaps. Maybe we lost something. And if we did, then the real question is, what happened? Did this ancient knowledge simply fade away? Or was it hidden, buried, maybe even erased? If there was once a civilization that understood wireless energy, a civilization that cracked a secret Tesla himself only dreamed of, why did it disappear? Some believe there was a catastrophic event, something that wiped out an advanced ancient culture, leaving only ruins behind. Others think the knowledge was deliberately suppressed, locked away in secret archives, guarded by those who didn't want the world to know. And then there's the possibility that we just forgot, that the march of time buried this technology under layers of dust and silence. But maybe, just maybe, it's still there. Maybe the pyramids still work. Maybe hidden in their stones, there's a frequency, a resonance, a signal waiting to be understood. And if we ever figure it out, if we ever decode the lost science of the ancients, we might unlock a source of power beyond anything we've ever known. Think about what that would mean. No more fossil fuels, no more pollution, no more energy crises. A world where power flows freely, where technology isn't bound by wires, where civilizations rise powered by forces we can't even imagine yet. If the pyramids hold that secret, then they're not just monuments, they're blueprints for the future. And yet, they stand there, silent, watching as we struggle with the very things they might have already solved. They have seen empires rise and fall. They have survived earthquakes, invasions, wars, and through it all, their mystery remains intact, waiting. Maybe the answer isn't lost. Maybe it's right in front of us, carved into stone, waiting for someone to see it. Maybe the ancients didn't just leave us ruins. Maybe they left us a message. So what do? Do we ignore it? Do we dismiss it as fantasy? Or do we start looking, really looking at what these structures might be? Because if there's even a chance that the pyramids once harnessed a power we can't comprehend, then we owe it to ourselves to find out. Because if the past held the key to free energy, then the future is waiting for us to rediscover it. And maybe, just maybe, the pyramids still whisper their secret, just waiting for someone to listen. The unexplained deaths of radical scientists. Have you ever noticed how some of the greatest minds, the ones who dared to challenge the limits of human knowledge, didn't just fade into obscurity? They vanished. They died mysteriously. They left behind research that was never completed, discoveries that were never explained, ideas that seemed to terrify the world around them. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe there's something more. Think about it. Science is supposed to be about discovery, about pushing forward, about expanding what we know. But what if some knowledge was too dangerous? What if some minds unlocked secrets that someone didn't want them to? Because history is littered with cases of radical scientists who died under strange, unexplained circumstances, often right when they were on the brink of something big. Take Nikola Tesla, for example, a man decades ahead of his time. Wireless energy, earthquake machines, death rays. His ideas weren't just brilliant, they were unsettling. He spoke of unlimited power, free energy, forces that could reshape civilization itself. And then, in 1943, he was found dead in his hotel room. The cause? Officially, heart failure. But within hours, government agents raided his room, confiscating his notes. What was in them? What was he working on? We may never know. And then there's Stanley Meyer, the man who claimed to have built a car that ran on water, not gasoline. not electricity, just water. He said he had developed a fuel cell that could split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen efficiently enough to power a car. Imagine what that could have meant for the world. No more dependence on oil, no more fuel shortages, no more trillion-dollar industries controlling energy. But before Meyer's invention could change the world, he suddenly collapsed at a restaurant, clutching his throat, gasping, "They poisoned me." A few moments later, he was dead. Coincidence? Maybe. But what about Dr. Eugene Malov, a scientist who was a strong advocate for cold fusion, an energy source that could revolutionize the planet? He claimed that cold fusion had already been achieved, but was being covered up by powerful industries that didn't want free energy disrupting their control. He was found beaten to death outside his home. They called it a random crime. But isn't it strange how the people who threaten the status quo with their discoveries always seem to meet tragic ends? Then we have Louis Slotin, a physicist working on nuclear research. He was handling a dangerous piece of plutonium when somehow an accident happened. An accident that should have been nearly impossible. A slight slip, and the core went critical. A burst of radiation hit him instantly, and within days, he was dead. They called it a mistake, but Slotin himself had repeatedly warned that the procedure was too dangerous. Did he really slip, or was someone making sure his research never saw the light of day? There's also David Kelly, a biological weapons expert who spoke out about government cover-ups. He was found dead, supposedly from suicide, but the wounds on his body didn't match the official explanation. The evidence didn't add up. His colleagues didn't believe it. It was as if he had simply been removed, silenced, before he could say too much. And then there's Jack Parsons, a brilliant rocket scientist, one of the pioneers of modern space travel. But he wasn't just a scientist. He was involved in strange occult practices, experiments that went beyond physics and into something darker. Then one day, an explosion tore through his lab, killing him instantly. They said it was an accident, but some believe he was getting too close to something powerful, something forbidden. Over and over, the pattern repeats. Scientists, inventors, visionaries, who step beyond what society is ready for, who go too far, too fast, end up dead. The official explanations are always the same: accidents, suicides, natural causes. But how many accidents does it take before you start seeing a pattern? How many brilliant minds have to disappear before we ask, what is being hidden from us? Even Albert Einstein, one of the most celebrated scientists of all time, wasn't immune. He had theories, ideas he never published, concepts about energy, consciousness, and the fabric of reality itself. Some say he held back because he knew what happened to those who spoke too loudly. He knew there were limits to what could be revealed. And then we have Dr. Andreas Noack, a chemist who spoke out about controversial substances being used in modern technology. He died suddenly, right after making a shocking public statement. His wife claimed he had been targeted, that he had been silenced, that the truth was too dangerous to let out. So here's the question, man, how much of what we know is real? How much of what we've been told is the full story? If these scientists were onto something, if their discoveries really could have changed the world, then what happened to those discoveries? Where did they go? Were they buried? Were they stolen? Were they locked away in secret vaults, kept from the public, because they threatened the balance of power? It makes you wonder, how different would the world be if these people had lived? If Tesla's free energy had been developed? If Meyer's water-powered car had hit the market? If cold fusion had been accepted instead of ridiculed? Maybe we'd already be living in a different future. A future where energy is free, where disease is cured, where technology has advanced beyond anything we can imagine. But maybe that future was never meant to happen. Maybe there are forces in this world that keep things the way they are, not because they should be, but because some people want them that way. Knowledge is power, and power is dangerous when it's in the wrong hands. And maybe, just maybe, the most dangerous thing of all is a scientist who isn't afraid to tell the truth. So what happens now? Do we keep ignoring these stories? Do we keep calling them coincidences? Or do we start asking questions? Do we start looking at the bigger picture? Because if history tells us anything, it's that those who challenge the system often pay the ultimate price. But here's the thing, ideas don't die. even if the people who discover them do. Even if the truth is buried, hidden, locked away, the knowledge is still out there, waiting for someone bold enough to pick up where these scientists left off, waiting for someone who refuses to be silenced. Because one day, the truth will come out. One day, the discoveries that were lost will be found again. And when that happens, when the world finally sees what has been kept from us for so long, everything will change.